Clash is here, and it's an interesting game mode. I've got some early impressions, some positives, a lot of negatives, some things that I don't really know for sure, and a couple of suggestions that we can make to really help out this game mode before it goes live in a couple months. So, season 10 is here. I think the patch is they've made better ones, that's for sure. So with Clash here, let's just go ahead and start rolling around the map. But before I go into the game mode itself, Hanaoka as a map, I do think it's important to talk about the rollout of this trial because I don't think it's been great and the communication's been a little sketchy. So basically, this game mode is in the regular quick play rotation, and it's possible that it appears more often than most maps do. But the big problem here is that the arcade game mode that lets you just play Hanaoka Clash is in open queue. It is not in the roll set or the roll lock rule set. And the reason why this is a problem is because the only way you can guarantee to play this game mode is with the wrong rule set. And the whole point of this game mode is to get feedback about how it feels for the core experience, right? Which is quick play, competitive, roll lock. Doing that in open queue is a bit of a disaster because the game is different and it plays differently, and we're not supposed to be balancing for open queue. So a lot of suggestions are going to come with open queue in mind, and some experiences are going to be different because some people, like myself so far, have only played it in open queue. I haven't queued quick play because I've been playing some comp and I've been playing this, but I don't want to have to hope that I get Hanaoka and play it only like maybe a handful of times while it's here, when I could just queue for it over and over again and get a better picture of how the game mode works. I can do that. It's a problem. Again, it's in open queue. So I wanted to talk about that because I do think that is an issue. It is a little better that it is technically possible to get in quick play, but I think the arcade game mode should have been the regular roll lock rule set, just so that they get a better data set and we give better feedback about the core game modes. But with that being said, it's just great to see Hanamura's back, isn't it? I mean, I've always loved the aesthetic of this map. It's like the castle, very like bright aesthetic matched with the like streets vibe. Oh, I didn't even realize we've got like a new little mascot guy. Oh god, what is the name of? I know what this creature is. I don't think it's just a turtle. There's like a guy from Monster Hunter that looks just like it. Anyways, it's great to see Hanamura back. I think a lot of people really love the aesthetic of Hanamura. It's now called Hanaoka, by the way. But yeah, it's great to see everything is back. I think also one thing we have to talk about is, this map is very small. And I would assume that Clash is a game mode. They'll probably all be really small. You've already seen me go through it all the way. This is great. It's also symmetrical. Basically what this means is that it makes the designers' jobs really easier how to create these maps, and in turn that will hopefully mean that we get more of them and we get more maps overall, which I think in general that they probably want to focus on that because, by the time this game mode comes out, there will only be 2 maps for Flash, or not Flashpoint, for Clash, but also we still haven't gotten another Flashpoint map either. And with them wanting to do a game mode every year, I think it's better for them to focus on game modes that they can more easily and consistently add maps to than ones like Flashpoint, which take a very long time because they're really big. Okay, so let's talk about some actual pros about how this map plays, how it is. I'm kind of discovering things as I roll around here too. But so far, lots of flank routes. Lots and lots of flank routes. No very long sight lines, I think it's pretty reasonable where you can play and how you can get to places. I'm pretty happy with that because more opportunities to get into different areas, allow for more comps, more playmaking potential for individuals, less oppression from snipers and defense and all of that. That's great. I do like this. And another pro, which it's not really a big thing, but a lot of times on symmetrical maps, you kind of have to figure out, it's like, oh, which side am I on? Like, which way do I have to go to the point? Just by the nature of these points being labeled A, B, C, D, E, if you are in front of the E point, then you know that you're on one side of the map, and if you're in front of the A point, you know you're on the other side of the map. You don't have to do any like scanning the environment to determine where you are. At least I think you should know that information. You might need to fact check that. But if that is the case, that is really good. It's nice to know which way to go. Also, just the longer walk up to the point allows you to understand like which side to go to. Yeah, so those are like the pros that I can say like right away that this is really good for this map, right? Or this map type in general. So here's a couple things that are like a little like I could go either way on, or I don't really have a real opinion on, just some things I want to talk about. The biggest one in this category is that you kind of always feel like you're fighting, which is not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just really different because the way that this game mode works, it's a lot like control points. So, you know, when in what's it called? Let's say hybrid, for example, you're defending the point, first point, and you lose it and you die. When you're dead, your respawn timer goes down to like 2 seconds for a couple of seconds so that you don't get like hyper staggered and go in the wrong place. Like you just like get to come back to the fight. I think this happens on push a lot. So you don't just get like snowballed. You can come and have a good defense before everything starts pushing too far. That applies in this game mode, but it happens so often because these points are really easy to take, and you're taking a lot of them, that it can feel like your uptime in the fight is way longer. Match that with the shorter runbacks and smaller map and people pushing up further, it really feels like you're fighting all the time. Again, it's not necessarily a good or bad thing right now. We'll have to see how it plays, but it is a lot different than what we're used to. Here's another an interesting thing that actually means nothing to me, or really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. But this is a spawn room, and it's shared between both sides depending on who has control at what time. That's just really interesting to me. I don't think we've ever seen like people have the same spawn room before, like just depending on where they are. I just think it's weird that, you know, you could be spawning here if you're attacking B, but if you lose it and you fall back to D, now the enemy is attacking here. I think that's really interesting. Let me see, what else do I have here? This game mode doesn't have a timer. I think it's the only game mode that doesn't have a timer because it has 2 clear win conditions. It's you either push it all the way through to the end, either you get to A or E, or you capture 5 points total. So because the points are like really easy to capture, you effectively only need 1 fight to capture them, which we'll talk about later. No timer is required because eventually team fights will end and eventually the game will be won, right? So that's really interesting. No timer means that you don't really need to force things. You know, you don't have to be like, oh god, the timer's running out, so we need to like really get in there and touch. You know, it's basically just like, okay, so we have points left. Like we have like a point advantage. So if we lose a point, we can just chill and wait and play for a better fight next. We don't have like a time pressure to throw ourselves on the point more often than not. So I think that's really interesting. Also, it means no overtime because of the way the points tick. Nobody's ever like if you're in control, you take the point, you go to the next one. So no one's ever like in control of the point at one time. So I'm pretty sure that means there's no overtime, which means there's no overtime spawns, which is really interesting for the end, the backside of maps, because they're very close to the point, and if there's no overtime, these spawners are never ever getting overtime like spawns, so they're never getting higher and higher. So I think ideally what they wanted is that the last point of the map is really hard to capture, like probably the hardest out of any points in the game to capture, and we'll talk about that. In fact, we're gonna go ahead and get to the cons right now. Holy mother, the snowball. The way that these points work is that they unlock really quickly. So if I come and capture C right here, it's only 25 seconds before this point unlocks, right? So basically what that means is that I just run up to this point, but say it takes me 10 seconds to get here on a regular character, and I get my defense, that means there's 15 seconds left. And let's say on the way we catch a spawner, and they don't get the correct respawn time, they're not even going to make it back to this point before we start capping it. So that means the other team already just gets a bad fight and either just has to give it up or throw themselves on the point and just lose it. And we're instantly to the next point. Which at that point you may have ults and you may just be able to win by sheer ult advantage or sheer numbers advantage. It's definitely too much. Again, this game mode is supposed to be unique and interesting, so I'm not gonna like super dog on it right now, but I do think there needs to be some tuning there about how points capture, how fast they capture. I think also, and I do think this is a bit of a negative, the first fight really matters because it's like you already go up. It's not as much like push where it's what really matters is kind of getting the bot to the middle, and then that's when it's way harder to get back. This first fight matters a lot because it already puts if you lose it, it already puts your team in disadvantage. It's not like Control where you lose 1 point and you get a full reset and everybody goes back to neutral. You're never going back to neutral on this game mode. So it's really crucial that you get this first fight so that you have that initial advantage. Because the way that it works is that, like, let's say my team wins the first point and then pushes through this point, and now we're on the end, and they take it. We're up 2-1, and we get to come defend here, and they have to play into our defense. And basically, it's like the team that lost is always playing into defense, it feels like. You have a neutral fight here at the first point, and then we lost, so this team gets to move up, and we don't have enough time to set up a defense. So this team gets to be here first, and we have to fight into them. And they try to alleviate that. You see, like, it's much more defensive for the people who lost. Like, this high ground is really good. It's got, like, this thing here. You can watch the flanks and everything. You basically have better high ground advantage. But if the other team can get here first, they can effectively deny you this high ground and deny you your defensive position. So they are the defenders. And then same thing, we come here. This is when you finally get defenders advantage for real, and then you get to win. And then keep going. But basically, it's so crucial because the other team just has so much more room to work with how they take it. Like, do we want to take a worse fight on B? Maybe we just give up B and we go fight here and we don't let them get the neutral. Remember, this point is supposed to be neutral. What if we just hold a choke here and we don't let them go? Right? We don't let them take C. We take fight super early while they're rotating, and then we take C. You know what I mean? They have so much more room to work, and the other team doesn't have that if they lose the first point. It's like in a fighting game, like Smash or something, when you counterpick a stage, if you win the first map, now you don't have to play on disadvantage. Like, you get to start striking. And if you win, then it's less likely for you to play on maps that your character is worse on because you get to strike those maps. I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's very similar to that, and that's why I feel like snowballing can happen, because if you lose the first fight, unlike every other mode in Overwatch, it's actually pretty bad. And I don't think that's a great way to do it. I wish there was some way to reset neutral. And again, I already talked about it, but it is very hard to cap the end point. And without those overtime spawns ever coming in, it could be really, really tough. But yeah, that is Clash a lot of the bones of it. So I want to talk about some suggestions to clash the game mode itself. I already talked about making the timer a little longer before the cap starts. But I think points need to have at least, probably on the way that they're designed, maybe at most 2 fights to take a point. I don't know if that would look like it just takes a really long time to cap it initially, because I don't think they want people getting stuck on one point for too long. Or maybe that looks like a regular control point where it would have a really fast tick up percentage like Flashpoint, but be much more. Basically, you have 2 fights on a point, right, in order to win it. Then that would alleviate some of that snowball effect, because you don't have to feel like you have to get to the point really quickly, because otherwise you're going to be down another point and have a worse fight. You know what I mean? I don't know how that would work in practice. I think with this game mode and what they're going for, it would have to be the option of they'll work with how they work now. It just takes a really long time to cap them. The only problem with that is that, it would then have to go the other way. You may get stuck on a point for like the entire game. And again, there's no timer. So if you get stuck somewhere, then, that sucks, right? And I think they don't want to have a timer and have that problem, because then that introduces draws, and you could draw a lot on this game mode if there was a timer, right? This is a really tough problem, I think, to solve. I am not sure how they would do it. I really don't know. I think that this is it's a bit, maybe I think they can just start with making it a little longer to tick up and take, so that you could potentially get a second fight, or just save and wait for the next point. That would probably be the best middle ground solution without breaking this game mode. Okay, so let's talk about Hanaoka itself now. Because this map, it's hard to tell like how a map is going to play or how it's going to feel until you've really, really gotten used to it. But just initial impressions, this high ground down here seems a little worthless to me. I don't think any team would ever want to go this way, like as a team, or like taking this as your main space. I think what you want to do is play this more like, what's it called? Antarctic Peninsula Labs, the one it's outside, but it's not on the ship. It's got this high ground on the right side, but then like the one thing that goes over the point over on the left. I think this is kind of how this is going to work. You want to fight for this space more, but you're much more exposed to people coming over to the left. So basically, this is going to open up a little more spam opportunities. Obviously, this is probably still pretty brawl, but you can definitely poke out a little harder. So like you can send a team with like Soj down here and pressure them, because there's not great cover up here, unlike there is on Antarctic Peninsula. But I think that's kind of what you're looking for on this point. DMB, I was telling you this about defense, they give the losing side the high ground. So obviously there's this middle thing that you can play this statue. There's this left side, which I've never seen anyone use so far, where you have this big rock, and I honestly think this is going to be a really good position. Like if you put an Ashe or a Sojourn up here, they can clock the angles, and they have really good point pressure, and they can clock this flank over here. Don't sleep on this position. I think this is going to be really useful. Over here, not so much. This one's probably going to be much for your flanker to get around. You've got this box here if you really wanted to have somebody there. But yeah, I think it's a little more open, so flanking is going to be tougher on this point. So I would watch out for people playing here. Obviously, you could play here, but I do think this is a little hard since you have many different ways you can get shot at. Let's go over to E then. So this point is interesting. We'll see how it plays. I think this is going to be the one that most people aren't going to understand how to play or defend. And in your ranked games, you're just going to lose this point, if I had to guess. All right, this this point is really weird. So from the defense here, you've got crazy good defensive positions. So you can hold these signs and get angles either side this way. You can hold this box, get a good angle here or here. You can hold over here. You can get a good angle here or here, right? This could be anybody. Ana. This could be a sniper like Ash, Hanzo, Widow, Tracer, Sniper, Tracer. You can go around here if they wrap this way and shoot them from this side. Same thing if they wrap the left side. You can shoot them from this car. You can keep going and shoot them from over here. You know what I mean? It's really tough. Basically, what the attackers have on this point is that they can go through this room, which I can't go into because of the rule set. They can go to this room and go straight to point, which is a terrible idea. Or they can go left or right, and maybe try and come around. There's no extra door or way to go on this side. On this side, you can go in this room and take the high ground, or contest this side, or you can go up to this high ground. But again, pretty wide sight lines, high ground for the defenders. Much harder to get as value in here. So it's going to be really hard to attack this point. I can already tell that this point is going to have a lot of frustrations from a lot of people on the attack, just because there's really nothing you can do. I think I would like some way, maybe that's too high up there, but there's some way to get up top on this building and like play on that rooftop. That's probably too oppressive of an angle, unfortunately, though. So definitely a weird point. So, basically, what's the point? What's the conclusion? I've got a couple of things written down as like final thoughts, closing remarks, all of that. I am very, very glad. I want to make this clear. This is not a 1-minute TikTok where people misconstrue what I'm trying to say. I am very glad that we got this trial, because this is exactly what I wanted them. I wanted to be able to try this game mode. They're throwing new game modes at us very often, and I think it's very crucial for us to be able to play them and try them and tell them like when it works and when it doesn't, right? Here I think we have some issues to work out, some stuff to iron out, and I'm glad that we got to try this. I'm just a little frustrated with how they've given it to us to try. I think I'm making the prediction, unless they make some big changes, this is going to be the worst game mode to play in ranked. This is going to be my Ana decided not to leave, and now she's running for her life against a Lucio comp that's going to catch up with her. They're going to kill her right barely before her spawn timer goes back to 2 seconds, so she's going to get full spawn, and then we're going to have a 4v5 fight, and we're going to have to fight the last, and now we're down 2 points, and even if we win this, it's going to be really hard for us to get, etc., etc. And people are going to flame, and people are going to start realizing, I'm going to tell you now, the streamers are going to say, someone really big is going to point out how bad it is to lose the first point, and then people are going to start giving up after losing the first point, and you're just going to get snowballed by team mental diff. It's going to happen. I just want you guys to know now. It's going to be really tough and ranked. I don't know how they can change that. I said this earlier, faster games aren't always a bad thing, but I do think there needs to be some breathing room between points. If we are really just respawning all the time, like, oh, I just died, and then 2 seconds later, the cap point, 2 seconds later I respawn, and 5 seconds later I walk up into another battle, it doesn't feel like I get that mental reset, and I can't plan. That's going to be really big. It's going to be hard to plan, so you're going to be planning around snowballing and like wanting to play comps that are like, okay, let's just run at them. Like, I can tell, like, people are just going to play comps that run at people so that they don't even give the enemy an opportunity to plan or counteract or swap or anything, right? Swapping is going to be hard on this game mode. I'm thinking about this now, because you lose that ult percentage, and if you don't make the call soon enough, well, they're just going to steamroll you, and that's all you can do. It's not like Control, where they get, or not Control, it's not like Push, where you get like a mid-game, like, okay, let's all reset, let's get you back into, like they took forward, so we need to try and level the playing field a little bit so you don't get snowballed to the end, right? It's not really like that. So we have to be really careful with that too. It feels unique, but unrefined, which is why it's here early, which is why they can tweak it, which is good. Maps being so small, I think it brings in a lot of unique challenges that I've talked about to balance. And like these sightlines are long, but they aren't like super long, right? And there's a lot of cover and a lot of angles. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this game mode works, because I think a lot of these 3 points are much different from each other. Like, they're very different from each other. So having one cohesive comp that works on all of them is going to be really strange. Now, if the mode becomes super snowbally, then it doesn't matter, and you would always play the comp that works the best on point C, right? So I don't know. I feel like that could be a problem. That could be something that's unique. We'll have to wait and see. Also, this mega is going to probably be very, very good to control, just because it's up here on the high ground. Also, a mini underneath. Interesting to know. Basically, I hope that they can make some changes to this in the next 2 months. And if they don't, or if they aren't drastic enough, maybe we delay its release. Maybe it doesn't come out with Season 11, just because I don't want the dev team to instantly, when it comes out in ranked, have people at their throats saying how bad this game mode potentially is. I don't think it has to be that bad. I just think there's a lot of frustrations with it right now. Again, that's the whole reason they're doing this. That's great. Thumbs up. Good on Blizzard. But I do think there's a lot of stuff that is kind of concerning about this game mode. And a lot of stuff that I don't know if it can be changed easily because of the identity, like the timer and how the points work, all of that stuff. So basically, we'll have to wait and see. Keep playing it. Form your own opinions on it. Try to play it in quick play if you get lucky enough to get it. And let the dev team know. Be vocal, right? I don't want to just like you complaining to your friends in Discord and then just have it launches and nothing changes because they don't get very good feedback. If you have something to say, you should let them know. Go on their website, do a blog post, go on Twitter, be very vocal. At Blizzard Entertainment, at Barack Obama, you know what I mean? Like, you can do whatever you want. Just get your voice, let your voice be heard, because that's exactly what this trial is for. That's what I'm doing. I think you should probably do the same. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this. I will catch you later, but if you want to see more of my content, more discussions like this, you can check out my YouTube channel, the rest of it. My socials are down below. And I'd love to see you on my live stream if you weren't here now. That's twitch.tv/Lane Hemingway. You can come in and discuss with me live if you have any questions or concerns. But that's it for me. I will see you guys later.